Разве ты узнать себя, познать границы своих возможностей? К черту границы.
It begins in California, with a little girl raised by two moms.
I also marched for equality. I like to think I've been defending freedom from an early age.
To marry my other mom. I'm U.S. Army Corporal Emma Malone Lord, and I answered my calling.
We need to make sure that everybody continues to let us know where those folks are. If you've observed recurring violations of the Safer at Home order, please continue to let us know at coronavirus.lacity.org/business violation. You know the old expression about snitches? Well, in this case, snitches get rewards. We want to thank you for turning folks in and making sure we are all safe.
How the Coast Guard is, quote, the hard nucleus around the Navy forms in times of war. You're a really dull class. I mean, come on, man. Is the sun getting to you? I would think you'd have an opportunity when I say that about the Navy to clap.
Okay, so Burger King, that name is so bloody complicated. It took me like 3 months of non-stop thought to figure this out. Well, you look at it and you can say pretty confidently, king, that's actually an instantiation of a patriarchal mode of being, isn't it? It's like that's the typification of a fatherly figure that exists at the top of all possible dominance hierarchies. I guess that'd be a good way to describe it. But it's not a king per se when you go to Burger King. It's the instantiation of an individual as necessarily being the embodiment of the transcendent ideal of a king. It's a king as such. The typified aspect of kinship as such is inexorably tied up with the word. And what does a typified father figure do? Well, he provides, doesn't he? He provides food and shelter and burgers. Well, yeah, that's bloody well right. It's a king who provides burgers. Exactly.
Are you gonna order?
You know, when Alexander Solzhenitsyn was in the gulags, he thought about food a lot.
I listen to the experts. I only listen to the science. I listen to people like Dr. Tam, Dr. Fauci, Dr. Bill Gates.
So you're pro-lockdown?
Yes, of course. I love. It's because of these people that we keep having lockdowns. It's because of them. I hate these people. So I'm wearing my mask. I'm following the guidelines. I trust the science. I trust the CDC. I trust Dr. Fauci. I trust Dr. Bill Gates. And I want to follow the science. I mean, I'm wearing one mask is 1% protection. 2 masks is 2%. 100 masks is 100% protection.
Science works out.
I've seen it on CNN. All these people are conspiracy theorists. I only trust the science. I want to thank you, Dr. Fauci, Dr. Tam, Dr. Bill Gates. I swear to God, love you from the bottom of my heart.
Well, there you
We only have one child. We don't want another child because a second child will be an additional problem for world climate and so forth. You can reduce the problem by one if you just simply kill yourself on the spot.
Dr. Bill Gates says that if you're watching this on YouTube, stop it. There's a link in the description to go check it out on Odysee.
From Dallas, Texas, this is Anarchast.
Greetings, political atheists. Today's guest is a mother of two, an aspiring voiceover artist, lover of people. Oh, we're going to talk about that. Ideas. A lover of ideas, great conversations, and the 2016 third place Tennessee gubernatorial political alternative candidate. She started her media career in local radio. And what are you? Okay, focus, intro. And then moved into podcasting, where she is the host of the Sherry Voluntary Show, co-host of Postcards from Somalia, and the executive producer of the late night libertarian talk show It's Too Late with Alan Mosley. I'm not sure it's you because I can't see your face, but welcome to the show, Sherry Voluntary. It's good to have you.
Me too. I thought this is where we go to freedom, right? Like I'm going to freedom here with my mask on, so you know I'm a good person.
Virtue signal received. It's coming in loud and clear. It's coming in loud and clear.
Okay, now that that's just done.
What's up?
Nothing, but I got that like 2 months ago. This guy that I've been dating, he brought it to me and he said, I thought you'd get a kick out of that. And I thought of this. I was like, I've got to wear that on Patrick's show. It was I just knew it. I was like, I almost forgot it too. And then I put it in my makeup so I would remember, because I loved it.
It's a double virtue signal. It's like magic sky cloth, mask.
American?
I am double good person. You're a double good.
I'm a double good. I'm a double mint twin.
Double good thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Well, it's so good to see you.
Yeah. So you've been on my other channel many times. We've had long chats that were really good. I'm excited to sort of introduce you to the world that is the audience of Anarchast. Everybody, Sherry Voluntary is awesome. You should go check her out. There's a mess of links in the description that take you to all of her shows and socials and stuff. Make sure you check those out. And I think she just got an Odysee channel approved as well. Good on you for
just
that.
Today. I was so excited. It took a lot longer than I thought, but it was awesome.
So the first question that I have to ask you as a guest on Anarchast is, how is your vaccine treating you?
Not too good, actually. I'm just waiting for like the troops to come in, and hold me down and me be like, no! Like, I don't know. Maybe that day's coming.
Oh, wait.
I doubt it.
You didn't get a vaccine? You didn't get your COVID vaccine?
No, I know. Not yet. I'm not a good double thinker. I just virtue signal like most of the double thinkers.
Smart. Okay. So, no, really. The first question I have to ask you is, Sherry, how did you become an anarchist?
I just want to say about the vaccines, I think it's funny that we're now in the anti-vaxxer category, because we weren't before. Like, we're in the pro, do what you feel is best. But anyways, I just think that's funny, because you and I were always arguing about that. Anyways,
no, you're right. That's an important distinction to make. Previously we were just seen as people that wanted you to control your own body and make your own decisions in terms of medical care. And now, because we still hold that same position, now we are labeled irrational, anti-science, anti-vax, blah blah blah. Yeah. And before you answer that question, I got to shout out to all the beautiful people. There is more chat going on Odysee than YouTube. I love to see it. It's not visible on the screen yet. It's not going to show up on the screen yet because Odysee doesn't have that integration yet, but I do see your chat over there. Good to see you, Island Anarchy. Good to see you, Elijah. Greetings from California. Oh, yeah. All right. Anyway, so, Sherry.
I can't wait for Odysee. Like, I've been thinking of starting my show back up because it made us, and I'm just going to go full, like, everything you can get banned on YouTube. I can't wait till Odysee is at that point where people are using it and screw YouTube completely. That'll be awesome.
I think it's happening like right now. Over the past couple months, a lot of big names have moved over. We're finally getting some traction. At least, certainly this audience, the Freedom audience, they are there. They understand. We're streaming in a lower bit rate than normal to Odysee just so that even more people can see the stream, because Odysee, unlike YouTube, just sends people what I send them. And so if you send them a super high quality stream, people on their phones are not going to be able to watch it. So we've figured that out, and we've knocked down the bit rate of the Odysee stream, so it's slightly lower quality, but more people should have less buffering issues over there for now. But anyway, how did you become an anarchist? I think we've talked about this before, but new audience, and I'd love to talk through the story again with you, because you have a very unique sort of backstory to your life in general.
Yeah, my life in general has been a hell of a ride. So I think, I became, when I knew I was an anarchist, I started, it's kind of, my ex-husband started listening to this talk radio show in Minneapolis, Jason somebody, I forget. And he would have a guy named Tom Woods fill in for him every once in a while. And so that got him into reading Rand and things like that. And then he started listening to Tom Woods' show. And then, we were both listening. We had both already sort of been thinking we were becoming libertarians, because we thought we were libertarians for a while before we actually were. We went through I was a Republican, and then I listened to a guy named Neil Bortz, and I heard about eminent domain, and I was just floored. I just couldn't believe that would happen. So I knew that the Republican Party had sort of left me, but I thought I was a libertarian. I was more what you call a big L libertarian, even though I wasn't in the Libertarian Party. So then after listening to Tom Woods for like 4 months, it dawned on me one day, my ex and I were having a conversation as I'm making dinner, and it just like washed over me, something we were talking about, and it had to do with self-ownership and the draft. And the military was really the last thing, I was still a borders person at that point and everything. So it was the last thing to follow. When it did, it was just like this almost religious experience. Cause I physically felt it in my body. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm an anarchist. What was
that like? What was that like?
It was, I don't want to say I was outside my body, but I was just like, girl, what the fuck? To call yourself an anarchist is a really big, like, scary thing in this world that we live in, because so many people have this idea that's not correct. The state-sponsored idea of what anarchism is, which is really funny in itself. But I just remember it like I really felt like I was, out of place for a second, just this kind of tingly thing, because it was such a, I don't know, sunesis, I guess, of the ideas coming together and just cementing themselves. And it took a while before I was, out and proud about it, but not that much longer. Then I listened to that speech by Larkin Rose called "You're Not the Boss of Me." And I was like busting through the door. I'm like, I'm going to tell people I'm an anarchist now, and I'm not going to be ashamed of it, because people need to know, I was all, I'm lucky he didn't get me like arrested or something, because I was raring to go after that speech. Because, he's like standing, this is what occurred to me, like this dude is standing in the Capitol. Like you can see the buildings behind him, all the statist churches and cathedrals. And he's telling them they're full of shit and they don't have any authority over him. And I was just floored and motivated and ready to kick some ass. So that's how I became an anarchist.
What was the thing, person, or book that pushed you over the edge?
Well, it was a lot of different things. I think that mostly listening to Tom Woods' show and talking, that one conversation was really what cemented it. It was a lot too. I joined that. It's when it used to be an ANCAP community, the anarcho-capitalist community on Facebook. And that really helped me a lot to kind of, okay, now I accept that people own themselves. So what do I do next? So having a lot of conversations in there, that's really what cemented me into anarchism, and seeing that, having my questions answered, sometimes in a really mean way. But, just like going through that sort of iron sharpeneth iron process, if you will, from a religious context. And that was really it for me. I feel like everybody gets taught anarchism when they're little. And if you can just get them back to that, because what's the first rule I learned in kindergarten was keep your hands and all other objects to yourself, and no hitting and no calling names. And, so I mean, that's pretty much anarchism, right? Like just mind your own property and mind your own business.
Yeah, exactly.
But people get away from that because they really don't mean it when they tell it to kids. It's lies people tell children that are actually true.
Well said. Well said. I was about to ask you something. I lost it. What was
about
it?
The cult?
Oh, there. Well, we need to talk about the cult. We need, at some point. That wasn't my question, but
okay. I'm the queen of sidetracks.
Wow. Yeah, that's a big one. You were in a cult.
I was in a cult, y'all.
Like,
not statism.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Cult.
We have to clarify. Not the one most people are in. She was in a special one.
Extra one, yeah.
Do you want to talk about that? You don't have to.
Sure, I can talk about that.
Everything's voluntary here.
That's right. I love talking about it, honestly, because I think, people think only stupid people are involved in cults. And I mean, I'm sure some people think I'm stupid, but, I'm not. And there are reasons. It's about humans getting their needs met. And there's something in those groups that provide a need for you. And for me, growing up as a kid, I was homeless many times as a child. We were very poor, lived in a tent by a river once even. And so, there was a lot of abuse in my background. And at 13, I met someone who became my first boyfriend, and his parents were running this fellowship in their home. And, there was so much structure and there was a lot of love, and it sort of had heavy influence from the free love movement. So it was the first time I smoked weed and the first time I had sex, all these things were in this group, but it provided like a lot of structure, and they really told me how great I was. And, people call it love bombing, but I think they were genuinely, they try and love people for who they are and bring them along. So, that persisted. So I then met my husband a few years later, got married at 18, and was married for 25 years, but in the cult for 27.
Can you, and feel free to say no. Can you tell us like the name of the cult, or you don't want to? It's fine. If you don't.
No, I can now. I remember we talked about this before, and I didn't want to because it was fresh, and I didn't want to hurt them, but I don't really have any. I saw some of them at the park the other day. Actually, that's pretty funny, but.
So no pressure at all.
Yeah, it's called The Way okay. International.
Oh.
And
I haven't heard of that one.
At one point in the 80s, it was the largest non-traditional religious movement in the country. And there were a lot of like celebrities involved, I guess, and stuff like that. Time Magazine did a thing on them. But, it wasn't all bad. That's what people also don't understand. Like it's not all bad. Like at least from my experience, I learned a lot of really great things that have helped me in my life and helped me develop myself as a person that I probably never would have done otherwise. But, the price is too high. Like the people, there's some good people involved in it. I'm not going to just say they're all evil and, run for the hills, but they believe in authority very, very hardcore. And the more, when I first got involved, like I said, there was more of this free love movement, hippie type sort of just love each other and help each other, which was great. And, it's based in a different interpretation of the Bible than a lot of mainstream Christian groups have. But it became very, very authoritarian to the point where, they were wanting us to, if we traveled, to let the leadership of every state know where we were. So we were under our spiritual protection, and I wasn't supposed to go anywhere alone, everything 2 by 2 and just all these different things. But because it became so insular, the attacks from the outside and then the people on the inside trying to hide certain things. And it just became very insulated and difficult to relate to the real world anymore. So it was an interesting, it's interesting being in a group like that, but it gives you a real sense of understanding of statism in some ways, because you see that people, they really want to be right. And and they really want to like reinforce their rightness by forcing it on you. You see that in a lot of religious people, and the statism is a religion. I mean, Larkin is completely right about that. And this is an amazing book, which helped me to like really get rid of the authoritarian mindset.
So were you, I remember what I was going to say earlier. I remember the moment too, where I realized that I was an anarchist, and the feeling I had in the moment was just like a deep terror. I was actually, I was afraid that I was sort of losing my mind, like because the whole world believes that the anarchists are obviously irrational, wrong, violent, crazy people, and so when I was forced into this position, as I like saying, by the force of reason holds me in this position. When I was forced into this position by reason, I couldn't give up the position without a rational argument of why it was wrong, but also I'm probably wrong. This is what I was thinking. Like, I'm probably wildly wrong. I'm probably really bad at thinking because I've gone so off the beaten path. I'm probably nuts. And I remember having a walk with my wife, and I was like, "Hey, honey, we gotta go on a walk. Let's get out of the house. Let's go on a walk." And so we got out the house and we started walking around the neighborhood. And I was like, so I think this anarchism thing is, right. What do you think? And it's like, yeah, but give me time. I was like, give me time though. Give me time, because I might be wrong. I'm probably wrong, but I just have to explore the arguments and find out where I'm wrong. That's what I said. I was like, so just, give me some time. I'm not going to give up. I'm probably wrong. I just got to find out how I'm wrong. And, 6 months later, we had another walk, and I was like, well, that didn't work.
Somebody's got to tell me I'm wrong. Yeah.
So were you still in the church cult thing at the time that you were looking into anarchy, or did that come after you got out?
Yeah, I was actually. And I say cult because that's what a lot of people call it. And I mean, everything's a cult, really, all the little groups together, but, by the definition, but, they are outside the mainstream. But we had already been reading Rand, which, that kind of puts a hurting on people who want authority in your life. Because she's so much about empowering the self, the individual. And I already started realizing, wow, they don't have a right to know if I have any debt, or they don't have a right to these aspects of my life. It's not your fucking business. I'm sorry. I'm supposed to say that. It's not your business, if the drawers in my house are disorganized, because for them, cleanliness and order were godliness. They weren't next to it. They were. So, yeah, and discipline was highly encouraged in your life. So you were supposed to be brutally honest with yourself, which isn't necessarily a bad thing all the time. But like if you have a junk drawer, why do you have a junk drawer? Why do you need that chaos in your life? Why are you, like just stuff that got too nuts. I mean, I started thinking like, they don't have a right to that. They don't have a right to so what if I have a junk drawer? I disagree. Okay. The junk drawer is good for me. And so there was a lot less leeway in how you applied their teachings. It started to become really homogenous. And, a lot of fear, because there was a lot of yelling and stuff and public shaming of people that, did things they didn't like or whatever. So you didn't want to have that happen. So I was already, it had gotten better. Like it went through this cycle where it was really intense for a little bit. And then the president at the time had this sex scandal and everybody sort of stepped back. And so they were doing a lot of damage to control to keep people from just splitting. And a lot of people did leave, but it became a much kinder, gentler authoritarianism after that. But, I I already had started realizing that this wasn't the place for me, like several years before we actually left, because that once that seed is in your mind of, well, who has ownership of me? Who has the right to say what I do and what I don't do? Even if, okay, let's just accept the premise that God is correct and the Bible is correct. Everything you're teaching me biblically is correct. You still don't have the authority to enforce that in my life. Like that's just not something that I'm willing to give you anymore. And so it started becoming unbearable. And I had told my husband at the time that, you know, I wanted to leave. And he was like, yeah, well, I agree there's some issues, but this is still a great place. You know, the kids get a lot of love there, and they did. And they were good people. And our community, our whole life was so centered around it that all of our friends were basically, like, not all of them, but most of our friends. And they did those things for people that, you know, are really great about community. They help you when you're sick, and they're there for you, help you move and stuff like that. So that was really hard to leave and give up. But there came a time when something else happened, and I was just to him, I was like, I don't know what you're going to do. I'm not a part of this anymore. I cannot subject myself or my children to this. I don't believe it. I feel like I'm wearing this social mask all the time, and I can't really be who I am, because I didn't agree with several points of doctrine either. And so that was it. We wrote just like, yeah, I think it's time. I think we have to be done with this now. And then we just gave it up. And
are you still a theist of any kind, or what do you consider yourself now?
Patrick, I know. I kind of, I remember having this talk in your living room once.
We did? Oh man,
we did.
I'm terrible. I'm sorry.
With Chewy.
Oh yeah, we don't have to talk about it if you don't want to.
Yeah, no, it's good. I'm not sure. Like, I don't know. But the thing for me is that I don't hate religion. I don't hate Christianity. Let's say that. Religion in my mind is a different thing. That's the authoritarian part of it, the thou shalt and thou shalt not, and we are going to make you do this and that and that kind of thing. I don't know if I believe in God or not. I kind of do, I think. But I've kind of gotten to the point in my life where I'll take the good of whatever any religion has to offer, as far as the wisdom, or, you know, because a lot of that comes from just people living together and figuring stuff out too. But I'm gonna leave all of the caring about it to other people, because you know, if there's a God and I'm doing wrong, I guess he's just gonna have to forgive me, because I don't know anymore. I don't. You know, and maybe that's still, I'm in this transition. I feel like I've been in transition for about 5 or 6 years, honestly, because, you know, I left that group, and then my husband and I dissolved our relationship. And so there's been a lot of transition, and I'm not a fully boiled egg yet.
No, that's totally fine. I've been there for sure. Yeah.
I think coming to anarchism a lot later in life than many people do. I think, to me, it seems like a lot of young people come to it, and they're able, you know, I lived a lot of life before that, and I had a lot more crap to get rid of, I guess. I was just talking with someone about this recently, about all the stuff. Like I recognize, and you sort of mentally assent to the ideas of anarchism, right? Like I know these certain things to be true. I believe them, but getting them into your life, like when I first became an anarchist, I hadn't given up the death penalty or borders. You know, it took me a while to really, the death penalty was an easier one, but it took me a while to get through that, and just kind of deconstruct the lies and the propaganda, like what you were saying, where you thought you were crazy. I mean, that to me is just proof of how good the state propaganda is, because they really want you to believe that, you know, anarchism is commies, and they're throwing, you know, bottles and hurting people, and they're going to come and take your stuff, which, I mean, they're commies. So, okay. But yeah, that's not what it is. And so it's been, you know, part of this marketing campaign since when you're born in this time and place. It's all around you. So there's no wonder we like question ourselves and doubt ourselves and think, and they call it antisocial. That's another thing. We're antisocial. You must be an antisocial person, have an antisocial disorder if you are an anarchist. And that's just not true. Like, I don't think that's true at all. I think, society, social norms play a big part in any anarchist society. So
yeah. What
lies.
What flavor of God do you kind of believe in? Because I find like most flavors, most religions, most flavors of God, most flavors of Christianity are incompatible with the sort of understanding that you come to with anarchism. The slogan is "No gods, no rulers." So, and self-ownership being a big part of it. But I would say a lot of the flavors of the religions sort of directly contradict the self-ownership part of, kind of understanding anarchism.
Well, I think there is a case to be made for, a lot of the first voluntarists were religious people and for religious reasons. The history of voluntarism comes from religious people. So I think to just discard religion or, belief, let's call it belief, to just discard that as, or I'll call it belief, just discard it as useful. I don't know is the correct thing to do because I think there are a lot of principles in the Christianity that I'm familiar with that are about freedom and are about loving God because he loved you. Not that you have to, but that he extended his love to you, and that's what made you respond. That's what real Christianity teaches, I believe, not this kind of religion that, there's this God on high that's judging you, and he's got a letter of the law. I mean, the whole story of the Bible is a story of man wanting laws and getting them finally from God, and then him sending Christ to do away with them. Because he said the law hangs on this: love God and love your neighbor as yourself. So even that is a free will choice. Free will. It's a choice of your will. You are responding to a gift that is being offered you. So I think true Christianity is a voluntary response to God. Now that's the point of view. That's not necessarily my point of view anymore. I don't know. I don't believe in necessarily a God that is involved in your daily life. For me, it comes down to how did things begin? And I can't come up with a good explanation. And I haven't seen a good explanation that answers that sufficiently for me. So I think there was something that started things. And so we call it God. I don't know that that's the correct term. I'm just willing to accept that it's something I don't understand. And I'm just concerned with doing what I can understand is right now. So, and that would be self-ownership. So I just don't want to dismiss all of the religious people who contributed to voluntarist thought over time, because I really think that's a mistake to say you can't be religious and an anarchist, because do we believe that people have the right to, voluntarily, like state religion? I think people are when you talk about God, so many people have been forced into, their parents forced them to go to church, and there's a big societal, I don't know. There's of course civil religion, but that's a different thing. There's just a big push in society about Judeo-Christian values and all that. And outside of all that, I think belief in something bigger than yourself, whether it's an entity or an ideal, is a really good thing. It can be a really good thing. And I think in voluntarism, it is.
I guess my position is I don't know. And I'm proud of my ability to say I don't know when I don't know. I think that's oftentimes the most rational position to hold.
Absolutely.
You should say, look, hey, I don't know. I have insufficient evidence. I I have insufficient evidence both ways. I can neither deny nor confirm it. I can neither, I can't demonstrate that it's not true or that it is true. So I don't know. Well, that's fine. Let's be comfortable there. Let's be comfortable in, saying that we don't know when we don't know. That's good.
I love that place right now, actually, because for so long I felt like I had to sally forth with, what was righteous and teach people about it. And when they didn't accept it, it just, I was like, well, damn it. It was hard. So, and even when I had questions, I would have to say, well, and this is part of what a cult does to you as well. It makes you start to think that you are always wrong if there's an inconsistency, that it has to be you because it can't be God and it can't be the group. That's why it becomes so difficult to break away, because you're constantly undermined as to what you think and your ability. I mean, if you believe in God, use that beautiful brain he developed in you and don't take that bullshit, because reason is a thing and your brain is a thing, and it works really well if you use it.
Yeah. So when I invited you on the show today, one of the topics that you said that you were interested in talking about, and the term itself was intriguing to me on its own, but it was you said the altruism crisis.
Yeah.
So what is the altruism crisis?
So I think that in especially the United States, and many parts of the Western world, there's this idea that if you're not constantly concerned about everybody else, that you're somehow bad and selfish and greedy. And, we've heard it all, because being a capitalist, they get called all those things. Right. But and Ayn Rand, when she wrote about, the selfishness, greed is good, that kind of thing, that's people, I think, really misunderstand that. And part of it is she wasn't totally saying you can't be charitable. That wasn't it at all. But I think it was really, we have to remember that she was an academic, and she was responding to other philosophies with her philosophy. And I think that in particular is a response to a philosopher called Auguste Comte, Compte. People have probably heard of him, but he had this idea that only things that are done completely for other people with no benefit to yourself are justifiable. And that was her response was, well, that's bullshit. Like, that can't be right. Like, so she was saying that, okay, so I did something for someone. I did that good thing. This is y'all are going to hate this example, but you took a tax credit on this charitable gift. So you gave this charitable gift to this organization, and you took a tax credit. Well, that would completely make it no go for him, because it has to be at a sacrifice to yourself always. And so I think that's what she was responding to. And people now look at altruism. It's become so misused as just another synonym for benevolence or something. And that's really not what it is. It's this idea that you must martyr yourself or sacrifice your own needs to the needs of the collective. And I mean, nothing has said that more clearly over the past year than this whole virus thing, where you want to kill people's grannies and stuff, and you're just a selfish jerk if you don't put on a mask, and the same people, they're willing to martyr you for their good ideas. They don't care about any sort of reason that you have for not wearing a mask. They are doing what's right and good. And so, damn it, you are going to be forced to do it or shamed into doing it or whatever it is. So I think it's this sort of altruistic that I have to sacrifice. Because I've had this conversation with someone, another libertarian actually, who was a masker, and I said, I'm just not doing it. I don't like it. I don't feel good when I wear a mask, and I'm not harming anybody. So I don't see the problem in not wearing the mask. And he was like, well, if it just helps people feel better, and helps, maybe even keep one person safe, then isn't it worth it? And I was like, well, no, that's not my job to keep people safe. I'm sorry. If you have a problem, that's your job to keep you safe. Like, I believe in helping people, but I'm not going to sacrifice all of my life to prove to you that I'm about that, like, and my freedom to do that. So I think there's this sort of idea of martyrdom wrapped up in it. And I mean, you see it with, the anti-gun crowd, the environmentalists, all of that stuff that you have to sacrifice so that everyone can live in this happy world that really never existed and won't. But it's a total denial of self-ownership.
Yeah.
And it goes against that. And so that's why I think there's like this crisis of altruism.
And there's there's two sides. There's two sides to the line that you're talking about. And I think because we see the gun in the room, we see the coercion of government.
Right.
We spend all of our time resisting what the government is demanding and ordering and coercing and threatening us to do. And so we don't spend any time getting to think about what might be the polite thing to do. What am I saying? Well, let me devil's advocate. So like, my daughter's been immunocompromised during her treatment for not recently,
right.
but 3 years ago or whatever. And so before it was ordered and mandated or whatever, we wore masks when we went to the hospital. Why did we do that? Well, because when we go to that hospital, there's a lot of kids in there with no immune systems. And so we took precautions, not to protect ourselves, but to protect others and to protect our daughter.
Right.
And then when this whole thing started and, before sort of the news hit that, in the beginning, they were like, well, we don't know if it's going to be a catastrophe or not yet. It could be a terrible, super nasty virus that might actually be a legit deadly pandemic or whatever. And so, people made their own decisions is my point. That's my point. Some people chose to wear the mask because they wanted to be more concerned with other people. Some people chose not to take precautions to be more concerned with other people. And and we as, a family with an immunocompromised person in it, chose to take a lot of precautions because our daughter's safety was our responsibility first before anyone else's. We would have never even thought to just go out in public and demand that everyone around us alter their behavior. That would have been absurd.
That's actually selfish.
Absurd or egotistical. Just disgustingly dumb as well.
Yeah, and I totally. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, well, the second part of that is just kind of drawing the other side of the line. So once we kind of started to discover that it was kind of a big ball of garbage and it was mostly just indoctrinated corporatist news feeding us a line of garbage to keep us afraid, to keep people watching their garbage television news networks. Anyway. Let me not go on a rant on that for a while, but no. So like once we started seeing the truth of that situation, there became this sort of resistance to anyone seen wearing masks or anyone seen taking these precautions.
Right.
Meanwhile, my family was still wearing them for my daughter's sake because we had our own personal private reasons. And so I started catching flack from the general public that were just sort of not the general public, from the general anarchist community, because we were choosing to wear the masks for our own separate individualistic reasons, not because anybody was ordered to. So that's the other side of the line, that when coercion is used, when this shit is mandated, it's easy to lose sight that, people still have self-ownership and there's still reasons to do things. It's just, but the other side of it is like, as soon as my daughter was in a better place, like we just stopped because it didn't make sense anymore. And, and because there's a strong sort of desire, drive in me, probably you too, as an anarchist, I'm assuming, probably most of the people watching, there's a strong sort of reactionary instinct to resist control. And it was like everyone was more free to do what they want on either way, to wear or to not wear, to protect themselves, to not protect themselves, whatever.
Right.
Before it was mandated. But once the government came in and started pointing guns at people over it and shutting businesses down and destroying livelihood over it, sorry, now we got to resist. Sorry, like, I'm not putting up with that shit. You don't have the right to do it. You know, now you're like reducing the number of people that would want to just do it out of politeness or something like that, right?
Force always,
go ahead.
Yeah, force always polarizes people. Like, I mean, I would think, you know, I didn't see my mom and grandma for months because they are immunocompromised, and my brother as well. I don't want, like, I didn't know, but I'm not taking a risk for them. So when I would go there, I would wear a mask, or what I did mostly was just not see them. But you know, it makes sense. If I were going to a nursing home or a hospital, of course, you know, I'm going to do that, because that does make more sense. It kind of makes sense more than even now. Like, maybe they should have been doing some of these things before in hospitals. I don't know. Hospitals are terrible places to be sick because there's so much around. But that's, you know, that is the thing. I remember that I went to the mall with my daughter, and I wore a mask in the store when they asked me, because my philosophy on it has been that, look, I feel like a lot of, you know, the businesses they've been coerced by the government, and a lot of them would not care except for they're being coerced by the government. And here in Tennessee, we didn't have a statewide mask mandate. It was left to the counties, and Knox County didn't have one, but the city did, because they're a bunch of commies. And a lot of the, you know, a lot of the businesses, because people really, there's this idea of a business isn't as good as the products it sells anymore. It's about their values as a company. And so, you know, the left has been really good at getting people to focus on, like, I saw a mattress commercial the other day. They didn't even mention the damn product, any of the specifications of the product. It was all about they're green, they're safe for bees, and there's something else, organic. The whole commercial was not about the mattress. It was about their virtue as a company. So, you know, that's sort of the thing. I get that. So when I would go to a business, I would not wear my mask. And if they asked me to wear the mask, I would put it on if I needed to be there, and I would leave if I didn't. And so, like, for my daughter, she really loves these little anime stores that are in the mall. And I'm not going to let those bastards keep me from having some special time with my daughter and her interests. I wanted to keep her life as normal as possible in all this chaos. So, you know what? I put on a damn mask and I went in the store with her, because she's more important to me than all of that. So it didn't hurt me to do it for 30 minutes, but that was my choice, right? So not for, you know, as important reasons as you, but it was just, I made a decision. And sometimes there were times where I would always go to the grocery store and not wear one. But there were times where I was just like, I just can't fight today. Even though nobody has really said anything to me about wearing a mask, because I put on my best bitch face and dare them. And I look them in the eye too. When they start walking my way, I just look them right dead in the eye, like, come on, you know what, let's go. And they always look down and walk away.
Yeah.
Of course, it helps that here in Knox County, the mayor had said, you know, I'm not enforcing this. It's unconstitutional. Our mayor is Glenn Jacobs, and people know. And the sheriff also said, look, this is unconstitutional. Don't bother calling us, because we're not coming for people not wearing masks. So, you know, they didn't have that state force in our county to back it up. I mean, I can drive 20 minutes down the road to Oak Ridge, where the national labs are, and they don't have a mandate at all. I went to blues concerts out there while this whole thing was going on. So, you know, that's
there's
the
a lot of places like
craziness.
that. Like, Texas has been mostly chill too. The big cities definitely did some retarded stuff, and
rural places tend to be more insulated from that
other
stuff. Countries
are nuts. Like, I have viewers that contact me and tell me how things are going over there, and it is insane. And then I tell them how it is over here, and it's hard for them to understand. Like, there is a massive difference. There's a gradient in locations in the world where freedom exists. There is and there are big differences. Like, we just had Miriam in the comments say that they were being attacked on public transport in London on his daily commute every day because of not wearing a nappy on their face. Like,
Wow.
it's crazy. And you go,
Yeah.
like Australia, it's insane in Australia.
Canada
Yeah.
has been crazy. My ex-husband is from Canada, and my kids have dual citizenship in Canada. Woo woo. And they can't go visit. He can't visit his dying mother in the hospital because in the nursing home, she's not doing well. There was a point where they thought she was going to die. His father died in Hungary recently, and nobody there with him because can't go in without him. Like it's really disgusting and inhumane what they're doing to people. Like it is actually inhumane, the amount of people that they're letting just suffer. And you think about the altruism crisis, it's the same thing with, think about all the people who committed suicide during this, who've had severe mental health issues, who couldn't get surgeries that they needed and died. All of those things, all for the greater good. The collectivism is always lurking in the shadows for these people, always. Yeah. And they don't care when it comes down to you paying a personal price for it. They don't give any things. You know what I mean? So they really don't care. They would rather signal how good they are. It's like Glaucon, the ancient, in Plato, I think is who he was in Plato, the Platonic school or something. It's better to look good than to be good. That's true for most people. It's better to look good than to be good because people will say, oh, he's so great. I mean, I think probably everybody's experienced that in their own life sometime where, you're doing your best and you're struggling and somebody else that, it like, they haven't struggled like I have, and everybody's giving them all this praise and things, or they're not working nearly as hard. And you go, well, dang it, why am I, not noticed? But that sort of thing. It's that if good self-promoters are good at this stuff, right? Self-promotion is a thing. Glaucon had it right. That's the base human thing, is to look good rather than be good. And I think that for voluntarists, we certainly want to be good, and good is allowing people their own agency and their own right to be wrong, their own will to choose.
The quote that keeps coming to mind as I talk about the masks and wearing them or not wearing them and making your own decision and thinking for yourself is the good old Heinlein quote. I am free no matter what rules surround me. If I find them tolerable, I tolerate them. If I find them too obnoxious, I break them. I am free because I know that I alone am morally responsible for everything I do. I love that quote. And, it is the voluntarist anarchist position to say, look, if you feel better wearing a mask, if that's your thing, if that's what you want to do, then, man, live your life. Wear fucking 10 masks. I want you to be as happy and as wrapped in masks as you want to be. Just leave me the fuck out of it. Like, just
it comes down to force.
Yeah, I want them to say the same thing to me. Like, I want them to say, Patrick, if you want to live your life on the edge and risk your life, from the COVIDs, then I want you to be as happy as you want until you die of COVID. Like, and I'll be like, thank you for your consideration. Now let's let's not shake hands. Let's social distance, fist bump, fake fist bump or whatever. Anyway,
it's funny. I thought that I think that was always from what I remember from our talks. That was always the position that you and I had about vaccines before. Was like, my kids are vaccinated, and maybe I'm not going to say that there hasn't been harm to people from them. I don't know. I've learned a lot more since my children were little about vaccines, and I do kind of have some questions. There's a lot of questionable stuff around it. Yep. But that being said, the science of how vaccination should work, whether they actually do it that way or not, I think we agreed that, okay, so but we still agreed that you shouldn't be forced to do that. You shouldn't be forced to give your children vaccines and these things. And now, like, I don't know why that's so hard for people to understand. I confronted a state representative on Capitol Hill one day. We were up there about his position on raw milk and vaccines because, he wanted to legislate them, and he was going after raw milk at the time. And I just asked him, I said, don't you believe in self-ownership? I said, do you believe in self-ownership, in private property? And he said, of course. And I said, well, how in the world then can you possibly think it's okay to tell people what they can do with their own property and what they can put in their own body, like milk of all things? And I was graciously escorted out of his office very quickly. He didn't actually leave it, but he gave me some statist answer, and he's like, well, folks, gotta go, blah, blah, blah. And I this is another quick story about Capitol Hill. So I love to go and confront these people, right? You guys, I don't believe in the political process and I don't want anything to do with it, but I want to look these bastards in the eye and tell them I know what you're up to. And so my friend runs this organization called the Campaign to End Civil Asset Forfeiture in Tennessee. So a few months ago, I went with him to Capitol Hill because he had this bill he wanted to go through. And I wanted to just look him in the eye and tell them, this is what this is. This is abhorrent, and you are participating in an abhorrent activity if you do this, and it's against, all these things you claim to believe in. So we left there. He's like, God, I love it when you're with me. You're the enforcer. Because I just don't let them squirm out of it by giving me some bullshit answer. I confront them with, okay, so you're this freedom-loving Republican, right? Well, why don't you believe in property? Why don't you believe in self-ownership? It's time to I just want to look them in their stupid faces.
Have you recorded doing this?
I haven't. I should.
Need to record. I record every interaction I have with anybody in any line of government.
I wonder
work.
if they'll let, if I could get in to do that. Maybe if I, waited for them to come out of the building. They were really, it was so nuts. I mean, they had these passes where you had to stay downstairs and wait until there were only so many people that could be on one floor at any given time. And I mean, it was so convoluted, and I don't know. I should do that. I hadn't considered it even, but
I told you before the show. I recorded a recent interaction I had with a judge over some stupid traffic fine, victimless crime garbage, and it was the pre-trial, and trials are on Zoom. Might be the only good thing to come out of COVID is that these retarded courtrooms, these little municipal piece of shit mini tyrants, micro tyrants. Now you don't actually have to go to their stupid building anymore for that stuff. You just have these Zoom meetings or whatever. Yeah. The other advantage of Zoom meetings is that they're super easy to record. And so, I've recorded it, and I just did the typical jurisdiction gambit on the judge. Right. He got so mad. He got so little. He got little butt mads. And
his authority was challenged.
He kicked me out of the Zoom call. He forced a not guilty plea on me and kicked me from the Zoom call like a little bitch. And it was hilarious. And I have it recorded.
Not guilty. That's just funny. He didn't want to see you again.
yeah. And I recorded it, and I'll probably release the recording over on Disenthrall after the whole process is over or whatever, so that I don't make things more difficult on myself. But it's just so funny seeing him get so butt mad over just simple, a little pleb daring to question the dress wearing god kings in the courtroom. It's just, oh man.
And then, I think you're right about not having to go there too, because there's something to be said for the psychology of all that stuff. Yeah. Of how all that works, how the courts are designed and the way they sit up there. And, it's all designed to make you feel small and helpless against them. And so with Zoom,
Zoom,
you don't even have that.
I use this same setup. I have a complete studio setup here with lighting and all the stuff, right? And so this is my element. This is where I do my work every day, right here in front of this camera. I look into the camera and I do my thing and I debate people and whatever. You're right. It's a totally different environment. You go into a courtroom and it's like the judge is up on an elevated podium with, all hardwood bench, 3 foot taller than you with a black dress on and, looking down on you from on high, and everyone in the room revolves around him, on a Zoom call.
Big ego trip,
on a Zoom call, they look like tiny jackasses. It is hilarious. It's like you're wearing a fucking dress, you idiot.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So, Sherry, that said, I have to ask you the next question. Why do you like the police so much?
Yeah, I've kind of gained a reputation, and I don't know why, because I don't think anything really that different than most other voluntarists about the cops, but you know, I think it's because I'm this middle-aged Southern girl that sounds like one of the Bubbas, but you know, especially I think, you know, getting here on public or on a local radio station where I started in this whole thing, that was really reputation making in that way, because nobody had ever heard on conservative talk radio in Knoxville, friggin' Tennessee, people, you know, say bad things about the friggin' cops. Like that does not happen here, y'all. I know some places. I was talking to somebody who lives in California there. He's like, but most people don't like the cops, right? I'm like, child, you got to get out more. You ain't been where I've been. Yeah. Down here, they'll just watch you shoot, you know, them shoot you in the yard and go, yeah, they probably deserved it. They must have done something wrong. Like that's the prevailing attitude. So
same in Texas. They're heroes. Yes. They're nothing other than heroes, and you should not question them unless you're a communist.
Libtard, socialist, communist. Yeah.
Libtard.
Why do you hate America?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think there's a few reasons, and one is I don't like people telling me what to do, for one thing, and that's sort of always been the way I am. My mom, I remember having an argument with her in kindergarten. Like, just I went to school without my coat because she wanted me to wear a coat, and I thought it was ugly, and like that's the only coat I had. So, but I was not wearing it, and I'll be damned if I was going to wear it. So. You know, but after going through my experience with the group and being sort of silenced for a long time, which is hard for me to not really speak my mind, or feel free to anyways, I hate abuse of power so much. Yeah. I hate it. And these people are given this like demigod status in our society. And, you know, they're worshipped by the common man, and they're used by the political class. So, but they pretend to worship them because they want them to keep doing their dirty work for them, right? And so it's that, and you know, I had a really bad experience with the police when I was about 13 years old, where my stepfather and his twin brother were accused of murder, and there was, We came home one day and there were cops all over our house, like all over the place. And they arrested him in front of us and wouldn't tell us why, and held him for hours and hours, him and his brother. And the only evidence they had for doing this to them was that they are meat cutters. Both of them were meat cutters. And this person who had been murdered had been clearly cut by someone who understood how to do those things. And there was something with it was kind of gruesome. And there was something with an ID, which my stepdad he had lost and gotten a new one. But anyways, it was convoluted at best. It was very, very flimsy. And he nothing matched up. There was no reason really, but they, took him down to the police station and basically ensued this interrogation against my stepfather for hours, pushing him physically. I know you did it, right in his chest. I know you're going to pay for it, you son of a bitch, and all this stuff, and really violated his rights. I mean, my parents could have had a good lawsuit against the cops, but that scared me. And at the time, I don't think I realized until later how it affected me, where I was always sort of scared of the police after that, because you just never know like what's going to happen. And then that sort of too, like being happy and coming home, and then there's in your world, there's these people all of a sudden. And my mom remembers more of the detail. The violations were terrible. But, once they realized that they had the two wrong guys, there's not an apology. there's nothing. It's just like, well, you can get out of here now, you piece of shit. Like, that's basically how they treated him. Like, it's not our problem. We thought you were guilty. You couldn't prove you were innocent, you know? And so that's this sort of, I hate that kind of thing. And you see it all the time. Like, I like that, like Dateline. I like that show. Like, I'll watch it sometimes. And every time you see the cops doing what they're not supposed to do, and every time people make excuses for it, or they go, well, I just can't believe they did this. But it's so common. It's so common that it pops up all the time. When recently they accused a man and convicted him of murdering his daughter, there was no evidence. Like, it was all circumstantial. They actually called the FBI, and that where they had sent the DNA and said, stop testing it. We've got our guy. You can stop testing the evidence now. And then, you know, even when you have a defense attorney in those cases, like, they're subject to the bar, they're subject to all sorts of other things, especially if you have a public defender, that, you know, and they play all these legal games, right? There's all these legal games that go along with that, man, it's just, it's a system meant to entrap you, that's for sure. And it's not about justice. If it were, then, like, Alan and I on his show recently, we just covered the Lindell, I forget his name. They put the man to death, and they never tested the blood evidence. The blood evidence they did test came back inconclusive in one spot, and on the jacket, it was a different blood type. But they didn't include that in the court, right? They make all the rules, and they are able to say how everything goes down. So there's really not this idea of fairness, and that's where sort of the police come in. Is that, you know, people will say, well, you should just fight it out in court. Don't resist the cops. You'll have your day in court. They're the same people. It's the same people making all the rules and all the guidelines about how it goes down.
The other thing is part of the tragedy and problem that comes with the public schooling system was that it has installed such a reverence for authority that the jury system of determining justice is subverted as well. So you get a jury in there, and they see the cops and the prosecutor, and they revere them as holy authority figures. And so when the cop says something that happened and the prosecution treats the defendant with contempt, well, you know, their built-in bias is going to be to side with the authority figures, the rightful holy saviors. So there is no jury trial that's fair and balanced these days, and public school has made it so. Shout out to Clue from New Zealand. Just real quick, let me address some of these comments. Clue in New Zealand, we have another viewer that hangs out often in our Discord server. So if you guys want to hang out with some voluntarists in our Discord server, Matrix server, we play video games, we hang out, we have a good time. And there's several people in New Zealand that I'm surprised as fast as that place is going tyranny. I mean, it's following Australia quick, it seems like. Definitely join our Discord server if you want to hang out. There's some other...
That sort of overreach of tyranny, though, or overreach of government, that sort of tyranny, it really does. If people that are more liberty minded and might be already on the path to getting there, there's nothing like that to make them go full bore all of a sudden.
Yeah, that's
you know,
true.
I think you're absolutely right, though, about the public school system. I mean, if there's one thing I could, you know, change tomorrow, that'd probably be it, because it has had such a damaging, I think it's probably been one of the most damaging things ever that the state has ever done. And what's interesting is that the first people to be called voluntarists were fighting against compulsory schooling in England. They were, you know, Baptists and Congregationalists who had been banned by the Church of England. They'd been banned by the state church for over 100 years. And then they also had to pay these taxes to the church. And then they were saying, well, now these kids that work in factories, they're going to have to go part-time to school. And this compulsory schooling, the people were like, well, what are you talking about? Like, we can't even get married in our own churches. We have to teach our children underground, you know, all these things. And now you were going to make them go to the state church as well. Like, it just was unconscionable for them, and they decided not to have it. So, Auberon Herbert was came out of that movement, and he was the person who coined the term voluntarist. So, and Spencer, also. So it's, it's just interesting to see that come full circle. I think we've been fighting these fights forever, y'all. These are not the things that we go through are not new.
and it was the police's abuse of authority and persecution of peaceful people over victimless crimes that started me down the path to anarchism. It's the thing. It was the crack in the wall of the matrix for me that got me to go looking for, where do these assholes get this magical authority that everybody reveres so much that they let them persecute them and control them and lord over them and steal from them constantly and put them in cage. Like, where does this come from? It was that question that sent me looking, and ended up with Patrick being like, wife, we got to go on a walk. I think I might be an anarchist.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome. It's really, you can see the difference too in how, like, going that extra step of, there's a lot of people who would consider themselves maybe libertarians or conservatives in the freedom sphere, right? That recognize that things like Ruby Ridge were terrible, and they recognize, Waco and all these different things, eminent domain, which was the thing for me that I thought, what the heck is going on with the government? But they don't take that next step into saying, not just this is wrong, but who's responsible? And I think that's a really big step. It is scary, because that was a big, scary step for me in going, okay, so these things happen, but people make it happen. And, a big influence, the first time I ever heard the term order followers, it was, why is his name escaping me right now? The One Great Work guy, anarchist. He spoke at Anarchapulco several times. Somebody will know in the chat. Why? I know his name is just escaping me right now, but he was the first person I heard talk about order followers, and it really just blew my mind. I was already considered myself an anarchist at that point. I knew, of course, but when he said, these people are responsible for what they do morally. There's no such thing as being okay. You have your own moral agency, and you're responsible for what you do, no matter who tells you to do it. I think that for me was such a wow moment as well. It was like that Larkin speech. It just, I'm going, what in the world? And that's the step you have to be willing to take in order to become a voluntarist. I think, to fully become one, because you have to recognize that people are responsible for their own choices always. And whether, even like people ask me about soldiers and things like that, and young people, because they are totally tricked. I absolutely 100% believe that. No other business can come into the school. I was recruited almost into the military I was in ROTC, and then the recruiters came to my high school, and I understand when they promise you a bunch of stuff, but they're still responsible.
Yeah.
They still did it, and so it's I try to, be loving about it, but I'm not going to tell people they're not responsible for what they do, because the point is to not shame them. I believe in forgiveness. I believe in moving forward. But to help them come to that better understanding, which most of them, so many of them do anyways. They get inside the meat grinder and they realize what bullshit it is. And, but to help people not do that from the beginning, we don't want them to do it, or to help people who have done that to then come to the conclusions, oh, wow, like many cops have, this is not a good thing. And Buford Davis being one, and, now becoming a voluntarist and trying to talk people out of it and trying to reason with people. So I forget where I was with that all, but
you were talking about how deeply you back the blue.
Yeah.
So, what do you think about the defund the police movement? Do you think that's an effective strategy to affect change in this area?
No, I don't. Honestly, I'm not going to say I know a whole lot about exactly what their plan is when they do these things. I appreciate the sentiment. I appreciate that people want to do something else. I just don't know if that particular thing right away is actually going to have the effect they want it to. Because you haven't changed anything else about the societal issues that people are living with, and you haven't empowered people to, like, look, it took me a long time. I remember this was just this past year. I was driving down the road, and here I am in my car and bopping along, and I see the cops have pulled somebody over. There's like,
is that how you drive?
Yeah, like just like this.
Oh God.
Yeah, and my steering wheel is really teeny. No,
here's me.
I know your car is nice. I just have a stupid mom van.
Oh, okay.
But I see these cars, and they've got like 7 police officers. It's probably just a stupid speeding ticket. But I go, oh, I wonder what they did, and it shocked me. And I was like, what the fuck? They probably didn't do anything. Like, why am I thinking I automatically went to the person being wrong, even with all I know. The indoctrination is strong, and that's why it takes time, and it's okay. I mean, we're human, right? And I was like, God, I couldn't believe it. But I thought, well, that's a teachable moment right there. And I looked at my daughter who was in there, and I said, wow, I just assumed that person did the wrong thing because the cops had them. And does that make any sense at all? She's like, you're weird. She's looking at me like, you're so weird. She gets me, but she knows she gets tired of hearing me talk about the cops and all this stuff sometimes. But
yeah. So it's a lot like cleaning up your language when it comes to collective terms, like we were in Iraq and
right,
our country, blah blah. I'm gonna sneeze now. Hold on.
Yeah.
Spreading
that AIDS.
Oh yeah. The mute button works. You're welcome. So the other thing you wanted to talk about, which is something I've been doing a lot of work on lately for myself, is developing more self-governance in my life. Yes. What do you mean by that?
Well, just taking more responsibility for things that don't even affect other people. And just really the stuff that I find myself not doing that would be the best for me. And I'm really good about not letting other people down if they're relying on me. But if I'm relying on myself, I sort of just go, well, whatever. And then I don't feel good about it later. It's okay sometimes to just say, I've moved on from that or whatever. But these are things that, like I'd let my health really go, and going through a divorce and stuff. I was just like, I'm just not even going to focus on it. And, but it didn't make me feel better, or getting in bed at a decent hour. That's a hard one for me. And so, getting the things done that I need to get done when I need to do them for myself. And, I think about that shopping cart analogy where, about self-governance, and people can't govern themselves if they can't put a shopping cart back, that thing. Are you familiar with that at all?
Yeah, I find it horseshit, but go ahead. Yeah.
I mean, it's an interesting, thought experiment, I think. But
no, like, okay, you asked for my rant, so I'm going to give it to you.
Okay,
when I go to the grocery store, baked into the price of everything you purchase in that store is a paycheck for a kid to run out and put the carts away. So when I don't put the carts away, it's because I already paid somebody else to do it, and I don't feel bad about it, and it doesn't make me a bad person. I already paid for the guy to do it. End rant. Please continue.
Sure. No. I mean, that makes sense. I do think it's an interesting thing to think about, the things that people don't do when they don't have to. How do you behave when you're alone?
Yeah.
That's the thing that I think that's really trying to get at. And for me, I've been thinking about that. Like, well, why do I allow myself to give up on myself all the time? What am I willing to sacrifice to move forward as far as the fun stuff? Like, I'm really motivated by fun. I'm highly motivated by fun. And when I find things not fun, I have a really hard time. And so I have to figure out ways. And you know, through maturing, I've learned to just, okay, you do the fucking dishes when the fucking dishes need to be done, right? Like, you just put them away, you get it over with. But when I was younger, my mother, she worked third shift, and she'd come home and I'd do all the dishes except for the silverware and then leave it in the sink. And it used to drive her nuts. And she would yell at me and make me get up early and come up and do the silverware. Or one time when I was supposed to vacuum the carpet while she was gone. And instead of vacuuming, I got out the vacuum cleaner and I ran it across the carpet. So there were the little tracks of the wheel.
My goodness. All right.
I know, right? This is what I've been working with. And my mom got home and she's like, did you just run the vacuum cleaner across the carpet? She's like, Sherry, it's easier to move the vacuum cleaner when it would have been easier to vacuum. Like, it's propelled by the vacuum. So you just did more work than you would have had to just doing what you were supposed to do. Anyways, so I've always had this sort of fight with myself about doing what I want to do and doing what I should do. And these are not things that anyone else has even given me. They're goals I want to put forward and things I want to do. And so, you know, I'm tired of that feeling of letting myself down all the time. So I've been working on it, and I've been telling people no.
What are you doing specifically when you say working on it? Because I find that a lot of people say that they're working on stuff, and all that actually means is that they just don't like it about themselves and they want to stop, but they don't actually have like a practical plan to implement to actually change their behavior.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I've been doing is working on focus and not letting everything. So I'll sit down and I've been spending a lot more time just in my room, my sphere, where I can control things, and I'll turn my phone down and I'll do what I need to do in there, and there's no distractions. Because if I sit in the living room, or so, I'll turn on the TV and have it in the background, and it's not even, I'm not paying attention. I'm still trying to work, but I know I get distracted, and I'll find myself like not getting done what I need to get done, and then I'm in a hurry, or oh, that's interesting, and then I start watching the show or whatever. So I've quit doing that. I say no to people a lot more when they message me and want to chat. Like, I love people. Like, some days I don't. Okay, I'm going to be honest, but really, I'm a social animal, and I love to talk to people and things like that. And so, you know, people are always messaging you, and wanting some of your time. And it's not that they're bad, but I have to be in control of that and say, this isn't a good time for me, and either tell them that or just not reply right away. Or, you know, there's some people that just waste your time, honestly. Mm-hmm. And so not taking phone calls is another one. I really don't care if we're talking on the phone that much to anybody but my mom for the most part, and maybe a couple other people, but not taking phone calls I know where people are going to keep me on the phone for a long time. That's another one.
I just don't answer the phone anymore. I stopped answering the phone 4 years ago, and my life improved immediately. Like, if it's important, you'll text me. Actually, that's not true. I answer the phone for like 3 humans. And if you're not one of the 3 humans, then text me. Like,
right. And yeah, it's true. It's true. You just have to you have to draw those lines for yourself and say, this is not something I can control. I'm not good at saying to people, you know, look, this conversation needs to be done. I've got stuff to do or whatever. So
yeah, I understand.
Yeah. Social media has been a huge one. Backing off of that.
Let's talk about that in 1 second. So last call in the comments. If anybody has questions or comments that you would like Sherry to hear or answer, now is your chance. Get them in the comments. I will watch. I'm watching on Odysee. I'm watching on Float, and I'm watching on all the other. I'm basically watching everything. I'm watching the entire internet right now. So,
well, you ask if there's a God. Now you know.
So yeah, last call for questions. And with that said, let's talk about social media, because both of us have had the past year and a half have had kind of a rough ride of it. And at least from my end, I guess I'll talk about me first, though not too long because I've talked about it so much on this channel. But I was banned from Facebook. They called me a terrorist. And, it was very painful in the beginning. And it was very disorienting. I lost connections to hundreds of people that I only was connected with on Facebook. Many of those I have not managed to reconnect since. But my life improved after about a month. It took about 3 months before I stopped thinking about Facebook. And after that, my life, it's just been up from there. Like, I'm more in control of what I pay attention to than I've ever been. There's less drama in my life. There's a lot more productivity. There's a lot less wasted time. There's a lot less giving a shit about a lot of people wanting to pound their keyboards at me. Like, it's just been, I'm struggling to come up with a single negative of not being on Facebook anymore since then. And, people are like, well, why don't you just create another account? Like, why? Like, why would I beg and sneak back into Facebook onto the plantation? Like, that's gross. Right. Like, I'm out, guys. I'm gone. I'm free. And I've adjusted to my freedom, and I'm better for it. I exist on the social media that doesn't control what I see with an algorithm. Shout out to float.app for that. And I tweet on Twitter, but Twitter's output only for me. I don't read anything. I just tweet my thoughts. But yeah, so what's your thoughts? What have you been up to on social media?
Yeah, well, it's the same for me. I got to the point, this was before I got nuked around the election, of course. At the primaries, I had gotten that, what were they calling it? Something entities, diverse entities or something like that ban, where they didn't tell you what it was, but you were guilty of it. So I could see Facebook, but I couldn't participate, and I could use Messenger. And then at the inauguration, they just banned me completely. They nuked all of my accounts. Everything was gone. And I did the same. I felt like, wow, this is really terrible. Like, I've lost all this connection, everything. You feel like you've put work into it, because it's work to try and come up with content, even in a post that people are going to want to look at and that you think is useful in the world or whatever, or just fun. Sometimes, I'd post about kitties or why cold coffee is an abomination before the Lord. And, it's kind of fun. And so, I had that sort of feeling. They ended up bringing my accounts back, just all of us, like, they were just back one day. There was a little bit of backlash, I guess, that they cared about from somewhere. I don't know. But I think there's a lot of pressure on people such as ourselves who have public lives, shows and speaking engagements and things like that, to be always on social media and like concerned with. And I did what you were talking about for a while. I'm just like mostly read only, or output only. And I'll occasionally read comments in my own posts, but I don't go into groups anymore. I don't really participate. Someone asked me to join a group. This is one of those things we were just talking about. I was so proud because they said, you should join our group. There's a lot of people in there asking questions, and they're, these statists and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I don't waste my time on those people anymore. I'm sorry. I just don't. If someone wants to learn, they can come and they can ask genuine questions. I'm not about arguing with people anymore who have told me, there's no, like, they're not really trying to learn anything. I think it's like price. Sometimes the price is too high, and the price of arguing with those people is just too high. It wastes my time. It makes me stressed, and I don't need it. I've put out plenty of content that people who want to know. Other people have put out plenty of content. The people who want to know can follow me on those things, can follow my pages, and can ask questions there. I'm not arguing with people anymore. I'm focusing on building real communities of people who, if things go where I hope they're not going, maybe there'll be some pockets of, freedom and people that you can rely on. But that's been a big productivity thing for me, and just the silence, practicing silence in my life. Like, feeling compelled I'll go days. I've noticed like at first the time between when I would get on social media got longer and longer. And then I had to force myself to go back on. Okay, I have to share this show. I have to force myself to go back onto it. But yeah, the output is great because I still get to say the things I want because I don't have my own show right now. And I've needed the time off and I think that was good for me. But I still got a lot of shit to say. I've got a lot of opinions. And, I like to be able to say them and interact with people about them. So that's good. But you just get that sort of peace back in your life and you're more in control of your time. And that pressure, I recognize that it's a false pressure that I was putting on myself because people expect you to be there and they expect, like a company has people they pay to, that's their job to do their social media. We don't have that. I mean, I don't know. I don't think you have that. Maybe you do. I don't have that. And it takes a lot of my time to do that. So I double up. I'll like post something on Twitter and take a picture of it and post it on all the other social media or something like that, and that's the extent of it.
I think if I ran a large company, I would just not have social media and see what people did. Wouldn't that be hilarious? They get angry at me. They get butthurt and they get on to Twitters and they try to tag me. And where are they? I can't bitch about them. It would be hilarious.
You're anti-transparency. Yeah.
Outlaw Barber says, smash that like button. Sherry Voluntary. He followed you on Twitter until he was banned. His question is, are you a meme war veteran like us? And you have been banned, right? But I think they opened the door to you again, right?
Yeah. I have been banned several times for memes. Yeah. I've been in the meme wars. I've been in there. I know your pain. I've been in the trenches.
You're a purple heart. You're a purple heart recipient in the meme wars.
What I loved was the one meme I'll never forget because so many libertarians, so many voluntarists even got on my up in my grill about it was the one, it was like Hitler and Stalin and I think it was Mao and then Obama with Greta Thunberg and they were all with children. They're all the school children and it said something about, the system always uses children. I don't remember exactly what it said, but other voluntarists accused me of coming down hard on this little girl. Now, this little girl who's 17, by the way, or whatever she was not they acted like she was a mere babe, a little bab who had no agency and couldn't defend for herself. She's a girl who made her way across the friggin' ocean, spoke in front of millions of people on the internets and the TVs, and yet she's too fragile to take my meme, that I'll never forget because even voluntarists were being dicks about it. And I'm like, do you not say, of course, I mean, it's not even attacking her. It's attacking the system that uses children in this way.
No, look, if you're old enough to try and control my life, you're old enough to get memed on. That's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. So that I was at your house actually when that heavy metal version of her speech. We watched it and I laughed till I cried. That was the best. That was one of the best things I had seen in a long time. So
I may have to open Anarchast with that next time just to bring that one back. That was really good.
So good. But yeah, getting off social media has been just not off of it. I mean, I'm still on it, but not letting that be like I noticed that was the first thing I would do in the morning was like check Facebook or something or. I was on my phone first thing and I'm like, why are you doing this? This little thing. I would leave the room and not really need my phone, but go back to get it because I had to go to another place. And so I'm like, why are you letting this little device? Like, I'm not a person who thinks, oh, social media is terrible and you shouldn't have anything to do with it. Okay, if you can control yourself. Think everything's a tool, right? It's like a gun. A gun doesn't shoot people. It's a tool. Your phone is a tool. Why am I letting it control me? So it's so easy to get sucked into those spikes in your serotonin and things like that. So it's nice when you kind of get off the drug and you realize, hey, things are pretty cool out here without all this stress in my life. I think I'll keep doing that. So now I just ignore people or block them or tell them to go fuck themselves.
A healthy dose of don't give a shit what people think. It's really good. And a lot of people really need to live like that for a little while. Detox from other people's opinions. Yeah. It's nice out here in non-Facebook land, I promise. All right, Sherry, it has been really nice to talk to you. Is there anything else that you'd like to talk about? You want to shout out where people can find you now that we just talked about you getting off social media? You want to?
Well, I'm still, like I said, I still have accounts everywhere. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, but the good one, Floats, Minds, MeWe, I'm on those. I'm Mastodon, I'm on that. A lot of those. I mean,
are you on my Mastodon?
I am. Remember,
voluntary.world. Everybody, if you want to join Mastodon, I run a Mastodon instance. Yeah, I think it's invite only still. So you got to find one of the cool people that have an account and ask them to invite you, like her right here. She can invite you.
You'll have to tell me how to do it though. Like you had to help me get on there because I'm tech-hearted. I don't think in those ways. And I don't, the other thing is I think I'm smart enough to do them a lot of times because I can figure stuff out if I need to, but I just don't care about it. Like, I don't want to know why it works. I just want to press the little button and make it go.
You need, you know what you need? You have a Mastodon account on voluntary.world. Now you need to switch your email to my voluntary.one Proton mail service. Shout out to voluntary.one.
I thought about using Proton Mail because it's a safer. I heard it was safer or something. I don't really know that much about it.
It's encrypted and not Google, so Need I say more?
No. Yes. I thought about trying to de-Google. I don't know if I can.
It's tough, but it's possible. You can do it. All right, guys. Sherry, I've really enjoyed hanging out with you. Guys, thanks for hanging out in the comments. People watching over on Odysee, I see you. Thank you very much. I'd love to see you
all. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you'd like to say? I'll give you the last word. Actually, no, I won't because I have to have the last word. So I lied.
No, I think you do a bang up job, man. I have so much respect for you. And you're one of the big influences on me coming along and progressing as a voluntarist too. And so I really appreciate that. And, I think you're killing it on these podcasts where you're reading, stoicism stuff and
you've been listening to that.
Sometimes I get to listen.
You're one of like the 25 people that have listened.
Yeah, Marcus, my daughter's middle name is Aurelia. Yeah. And there's a lot of good stuff in stoicism and I just think you're killing it bringing that to people and just your attention to. And this is what I told my son about you. I was describing you. I was like, you'll really like Patrick because he's a very philosophically minded and very concerned about the details of what's right and wrong. Like not just the platitudes, which I tend to be like a broad strokes, like, that's just wrong. And, let other people figure out whatever. I mean, I have my own thoughts, but, I'm a little more loosey-goosey with things like that. But I love that about you. And I think you do a great job and provide a really awesome service to people. And I hope they continue to support you and grow your channel because I
can't get very much more red, so don't compliment me too much more, please.
Okay. No, I just, there are plenty of folks out there representing every day what our philosophy is that do not represent it, whether they're libertarian or not so many voluntarists, but libertarians for sure. There's a lot of people out there that are very famous, way more famous than Patrick and myself that, have an audience. And so I encourage everybody to just support good content creation and not the, like the Ben Shapiro's of the world, but he owns the libs, and that's what makes him so treacherous, right? Because he is really good on the libs. And I've watched his videos sometimes, his brain, his logic, but he gets this huge audience. And what does he do? He supports genocide, basically. So I support the good guys, you guys. please.
Well, I mean, just to shout out what you were talking about. So as part of the new habits in my life, as part of, improving myself, this was, I don't know, months ago now when I started doing it. But every morning I spend the first 15 minutes doing what I call think time, which is sort of like a non-hippie meditation period. Where I just
they don't own meditation.
yeah. And so, I just sort of think about what I need to do that day. I let my mind wander and think about whatever it needs to think about. I plan my day. I think about the obstacles that I'm going to come across. I plan for those obstacles so that I'm able to handle them more calmly and rationally when they do happen, which is huge. Then I spend the next 15 minutes doing philosophy reading every morning. And I started experimenting on my other channel, Disenthrall, by just hitting live stream. Like, it's still private time. It's still just Patrick's reading time in the morning. It's all about me. It's about whatever I want to read. It's about whatever I think and whatever I say. I don't read comments. I don't interact with anybody. I just hit the stream button and I do my morning reading out loud instead of to myself. And my think time I say out loud instead of to myself. And some people have really come to enjoy that. We started off with Plato. We read, the Trial of Socrates. I say me. Why am I collectivizing? What the hell?
Well, a group did listen to it.
True. And then after that, I moved on to we read Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, which is a seminal work of the Stoics.
Amazing.
And then recently on this channel, you guys remember Michael Edelstein, the psychologist. Go ahead.
What is it called? More Equal Humans or something? The name is really like.
So
Orwellian.
that's on
More Equal Animals. That's right. I listened to that the other night.
Yeah. So that was on Disenthrall. That's a Let's Read series, and I do interact with the audience for those, and I go for a couple hours at a time. But we read books by libertarian thinkers or Stoics or whatever, and I actually give my rebuttals and commentary sort of real time as we read the book. So it's kind of like an audio book for people that care about my opinions on the philosophy of things. So that's one. Right. But the morning think times, we've been doing 3-minute therapy recently by Michael Edelstein and ANCAP.
Oh, you had him on the show, didn't you?
Yeah. So this is what I've been doing recently on the Think Time. Started a different YouTube channel for that called Think Time. So that I wouldn't annoy the Disenthrall viewers with those videos.
I think it's great though to really, I know, I tend to go hardcore about things. I know you got to get out of here. I tend to
I'm not in a hurry. Go ahead.
Okay, good. I tend to hyper focus when I get really into when I started the radio show and became a libertarian and stuff, I was annoying as hell. I was so hyper focused, and my kids, were just like, this is all you ever do anymore. And my family, I really tend to, that's where my autism really comes out. And I think it's good to expose people to other things, and that there's other things out in life. There's a lot to enjoy. And while we have our core principles and we see the world and through those, there's so much out there that's good and that we can enjoy and helpful. Like, your 3-minute therapy you're talking about, or, just there's a lot of self-help sort of things out there that I've found really helpful and that could help people as libertarians just navigate the world a little better. So I think that's really great. And yeah.
If all you do, think, and say is voluntarism, the non-aggression principle, that's not a complete person. You need to be out there doing something with your life, producing something, creating something. We talked to multiple guests recently about this exact thing. We talked to the philosopher about this, where we really wish that there were more voluntarists out there just being highly successful in whatever that they do, successful in business, successful in art, whatever. Just go do something. And when people see you being successful in the other areas, they'll wonder what makes you tick. And then you can tell them about voluntarism.
Yeah, look, Mark Zuckerberg, we would not know his name if he didn't have do what he did, Steve Jobs, we wouldn't know their name. I know. Bill Gates, we wouldn't know who he is. Yeah. They were successful, so they get a platform. Stupid Prince Harry, who thinks he knows something. All the guy's ever done is be a wealthy leech off of society, and he thinks he has the right to criticize anything. I was like, no, you're the last person who should have a platform to say anything. And yet he has this, not through anything really he's done, but from where he comes from. So that's so important. I mean, getting your platform, being a well-rounded person, not being like, I used to call them Bible bots when I was in the ministry. I would, these Bible bots, all they can talk about is the Bible, and all they do all day is read the Bible. And that's all they can wait to do is pray and read. And, and those are always boring people. Like, don't be that. Be well-rounded. And that gives you more context and more experience to have examples to, bring through your libertarianism through that. So I encourage that. I'm for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There's lots of world out there. There's lots of life to live out there. And just not hurting people and not taking their stuff is not enough of an equation to actually tell you what you need to be doing with your life and how to live your best, most virtuous, happy life.
That's one of the things I love about Rand.
Rand is like, as a from first principles philosophy, I think it has issues, but as long as you kind of step over that, and there's a lot of amazing life advice. Same for the Stoics. As a from first principles philosophy, it misses a couple things, but once we step over that, Stoicism has a lot of good stuff to offer. It's not right on everything. It's got some real problems with Stoicism. There's some real problems with objectivism. But man, we can pick and choose. Like, we don't have to. We don't have to be religious. Like, we can say, wow, exactly. Stoicism teaches us that we basically need to plan ahead and expect reality to be hard, expect life to include suffering. And if we choose to live, then we're choosing to experience a little bit of suffering. So don't be fucking surprised when you suffer a little bit. Like, that's part of life. And then, objectivism says, don't make your entire life about other people. Holy shit, that's important and good and critical. And we don't have to take... you a
better everything to your family and friends, the people that you love. Honestly, so that sort of selfishness that she talked about, just to bring everything full circle, that's exactly that, is that you, in pursuing your own interests and your own abilities, it's kind of one of the things that I have just so loved about being a mom, is seeing my kids develop their own life, regardless of what I'm not. I like some anime. I'm not a huge. My daughter is like so into anime. I think she will move to Japan one day. Like, she's really into it right now, and she's a very good artist, and she draws all the time, and she wants to tell me about it all the time, and I'll listen. But I love seeing her develop. That has nothing to do with me. And yet it's something within her that she connects with and she loves. And I love seeing that. And that is one of the joys in life, is developing yourself. It's like, a lot of times I'll be like, whatever. And about a particular thing, say opera. And then you meet someone who really loves opera, and then they are passionate about it, and they can explain to you all the beautiful things and why it is so great. And you start to go, yeah, maybe that's kind of cool, and it just the well-rounded person. I think being well-rounded is so important, and not being one-dimensional, because nobody's like that. Not people. I mean, people who are they're not people that you want to hang around with. So
yeah,
we're social creatures.
And I guess an example of what I was talking about was, at least in the entrepreneurial circles that I'm familiar with, Elon Musk is a good example. So as an entrepreneur, he has a lot of people's attention, and a lot of other entrepreneurs really look up to the guy. And so when he says things like there needs to be a carbon tax, then a lot of people may not agree with him, but they will at least examine the idea. That is what I'm saying we need to be doing. Don't front lead with the principles. Go be successful. Go get people interested in what you're up to, and be worth people paying attention to in something important. Produce something, create something. And then people will be interested in your opinions. And when you can say, well, you know, taxation is extortion and the government has no just authority over me, people will at least consider that idea. People that would have never considered it otherwise will consider that idea. That's powerful activism. Maybe second only to raising children, which we didn't really get into much today, but I kind of wish we should have. We had have.
I know we did talk about it. You know, I listened to one of our previous shows where we talked about family and all that and raising kids, and I was just like, wow, we're really good. It was a great show. Like, I have to say now, I was like, I can't believe I said that. I was pretty good, you know. But I know we're both, you know, passionate about it, and I think it's important to hear how people have done it wrong sometimes. And I know that we both talked about our own failures as parents in that episode. And I think that's probably often more handy than the other stuff sometimes, because look, we're, as humans, you're not going to do anything perfectly, and your kids, you're going to let them down occasionally. And you know, that's why forgiveness is important, and being able to move on and those kinds of things. But I think that sometimes just knowing that other people don't do it perfectly is really, for me, it's comforting sometimes, because I'm like, if people could see how, you know, I'm hard on myself generally in terms of stuff like that. And so, you know, I think sometimes, wow, people would not like me, or they wouldn't want to listen to what I have to say if they knew how terrible I was, you know, and how disorganized and whatever. And then I'm like, why? Get off your own back. You know, you're a person. There's a lot of good. You know, I at least try. Damn it. I've tried to do some good things in the world. And I think, you know, I am not of the opinion, I wanted to say this, of collective language. I'm not so bothered by some collective language. Like, as long as it's not collectivism, I'm okay. Like, I think we are a collective. Voluntarists are a collective. We're a group. We're not collectivists. Does that make sense? Like, you can where it's a category, you can say a category rather than a collective. We're a category of people. We hold common value or values. And so to say we as voluntarists, I don't get so upset about that, but that's me. You know, like I said, I'm kind of loosey-goosey with some of that stuff. But in collectivism, you know, if I'm saying you have to do this because whatever, then that's where the ism comes in, and that's not good. But
I guess we're ending it on that. No, so a couple things that you brought up. Parenting, number one, if you want to go watch all the other interviews I've had with Sherry, she's co-hosted shows with me on Disenthrall where we've talked about current events. I've had her on as a guest on Disenthrall. We've talked about cops and parenting and family and all sorts of really good chats. Go search for Sherry Voluntary on the Disenthrall channel.
And you were on my old show once.
I was?
Or twice. Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
You were?
Second thing is, this is kind of a big announcement. I guess 2 Anarchapocos ago, I did a main stage talk about the Peaceful Parenting University, where I announced the Peaceful Parenting University, and I made a series of videos. It was about 15 videos. What were you about to say?
No, I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. That's cool.
And so the Peaceful Parenting University has been up and running for over a year now. We had some awesome subscribers, and then I recently sort of made the decision to just sort of open it all, to get rid of the paywall. We created a YouTube channel. I'm uploading all the videos for the Peaceful Parenting University there. And I kind of wish that I had named it differently. I wish I had named it the Principled Parenting University, because in the same way that, like, when we talk about anarchy, it talks about what we don't want, it doesn't really talk about what we do want. Peaceful parenting is kind of the same thing. Like, peaceful parenting means you just don't hit or harm or, you know, be an authoritarian to your children.
Right.
It's what you don't want, but it doesn't really tell you. It doesn't give you the tools on how to actually parent according to our principles. And so that's what I've been trying to do at the Peaceful Parenting University. So I released all of the first season, I'm calling it season 1, of all the videos on a new YouTube channel called Peaceful Parenting University. You can, I think they're releasing one a week until I've gotten through all of season 1, and then I'll be releasing new videos going forward. So if you want to join that, you are welcome to go check out that channel as well. So those are the 2 things that you brought up. that I wanted to mention. Yeah. All right. Well,
Cool.
it's been a pleasure. I think I've said that like 4 times. I keep ending the show and then we talk about good stuff.
I'm terrible. I'm sorry.
No, don't apologize. I've enjoyed it immensely, as I always do, and I look forward to the next time we do it.
All right. Thanks so much for having me. I love it too. I always love when I get to talk to you. So.
And you're going to be in Dallas soon, so we'll have to hang out and have a good time. If you're in Dallas, let me know, and maybe we'll have a big hangout. All right, guys. Until next time, thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out in the comments. Peace, love, and anarchy.